And we're live. Welcome to the Sesh podcast. I'm your host, Mason Shotwell, and my co-host is James Evans. And today joining us is BJJ Black belt and coach Greg Creel. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, boys. How are you guys?
I'm doing very well. Before I go into anything specifically, I just want to ask, Fight Island, what was that like as an experience?
Bittersweet, obviously. But yeah, it was a good experience just to get the first UFC fight out of the way as well, because that was my first one as a coach. I've been on some of the UK's and European big shows, but that was my first UFC card. And for it to be on Fight Island, it was obviously a good experience. With all the protocols, we couldn't experience as much of the island as we wanted. But, in terms of kind of UFC experience, it was good. Really enjoyed it, to be fair.
From your sort of perspective, obviously, you've had the whole Fight Island experience and you've managed to get the first sort of UFC event under your belt. What is it like training these top athletes? And do you want to sort of get more fighters into the top promotion and into the UFC just to sort of get them onto the highest big league in a way?
Yeah, I think as a coach, that is your priority, isn't it, to see how far that your students can go. Because first and foremost, before anyone becomes an athlete, they're a student, So when you get a student walking through the door who wants to take up MMA for the first time, and some of them have got aspirations of just doing it for a little bit of fun and keeping fit, and some of them want to go all the way, like guys like Mason. So yeah, we obviously want to get more guys in. It's going to be a steady process because as coaches, we are learning as we are going. We've been kind of lucky in aspects that we've had good guys walk through the door like Mason, but then also we got to work super hard with a lot of the guys because we come from the Welsh Valleys where, we haven't got a big pick of a bunch of boys. We've got what we've got, and we've got to work super hard to make sure that they're up to standard, and that's something that we're doing at the moment. So yeah, it's going well. We'll get it. We'll get some more guys through the door, that's for sure.
Obviously, Mason has now reached the highest in terms of promotion-wise within MMA. I know my personal experiences with Mason, he's a great guy as such. He's helped with charity stuff for myself. But what's it like working with Mason on a day-to-day basis?
Fun. That's the best thing, probably. Yeah, fun. There's a lot of fun, and that's it's not just him. I think it brushes off on all the guys. All the guys in the academy is first and foremost, you got to enjoy what you're doing. As coaches, you got to enjoy it. It is work, and those 8 weeks where you're in fight camp, that's all work. But around that, then you got to have a little bit of fun as well. I can be a little bit arsey at times because I demand a little bit from the guys, but it is what it is. But yeah, we have a lot of fun, and working with guys like Mason, it is a lot of fun involved as well. You can see that from his Dragon Day videos.
Yeah,
they are quite fun, and just the grind. That's just the way it is. I think if you keep a little bit of fun with it, the longevity in the sport is going to be prolonged.
As you say, you can be, as you said, arsey sometimes in the gym. I think that's important for a coach to be not only strict, but in terms of a friend as such as well to the athlete. You've got to be strict at times, but then obviously it's better to have a good working relationship. Do you think that's important?
Yeah, well, what I do with my guys, obviously we get like I kind of ask what they want to achieve, so we get it out of the way first of all. So if I got a student that comes to me and they say, I want to be a UFC fighter in 4 years, then I let them know what the demands are of reaching that level. So when I do have days where I'm on their case, they understand why, So I think if you don't have that conversation with your guys and the guys that you were coaching and training, then that's where the relationship falls down, because you've always got that argument to fall back on as a coach. You've told me that you want to be the best that you can be. I've got to do certain things to get you to that stage, and you've got to understand as well, that's what the demands are. So, it is difficult to strike a balance, but I'm not too arsey. I'm quite nice. I'm all right.
I mean, you might not know it, but essentially, as a coach, in a way, you're also a scout, if you get what I mean. And when a fighter comes through the door and into the gym for the first time, what are you looking for from them right from day one?
Just work ethic, maybe. Look at work ethic. Look at whether they're dedicated, because dedication is probably the biggest thing. If they're not dedicated, then they're not going to get very far. You know what I mean? If they're coming in once or twice a week, then the demands of the sport, you've got to cover all aspects. Wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Thai boxing. So if they're coming in once a week, then they're not going to get too far. So I just say consistency, showing a good work ethic when you are in the academy. That's what we got with the guys. They're always willing to learn. None of them ever, says no, they're not willing to do certain things. They're all willing to do what we ask of them. And it's proven in the results that we get over the years,
What's the most, I wouldn't say satisfying, but what's the most rewarding thing as a coach?
Watching your students succeed, whether that be through it in the UFC or whether that just be generally in life, just succeeding in life. Because we've got a lot of guys that the success story is always the thing that you see on the TV, is always that they think that's what defines success. But if you get a student that comes through a door at a young age that's, suffers from anxiety, say for instance, and then they overcome that and they get themselves a good job and, they can integrate into society a lot better through martial arts. And that's probably as big as getting guys into the UFC, in terms of a personal achievement. But yeah, obviously we see all the things on the TV and you think that's what it's all about as a coach. It's not always as straight cut as that. I've had probably more successes outside of getting guys to big shows than we have. So yeah, that's massive for me as well, to be honest.
As you say on TV, all you ever see is the highlight reel, as you say. You're not going to see the down days the fighters have in the gym. But say, for example, the guys you have in your gym, if they're having a down day as such, is there anything that you as a coach can do to try and pick them up?
Not so much, because a bad day is a bad day. We all have them, so you've just got to brush it off. If you're consistently having a bad day, then you need to look yourself as a coach and think you're doing the correct thing. But if they're having a bad day, you're there, cool. But I think one thing that we do in the academy, I say to guys, pick your session. So if a guy's training 6 days a week, if I demand 100% 6 days a week, that's going to fall down after 4 to 5 weeks. That's a gifted. So I say to the guys, pick 4 sessions where you're mentally switched on 100%, and then pick like 2 or 3 sessions where you have a bit of fun, because you've got to have a bit of fun with it. You've got to, it pads the way you want it pads. Don't take no advice from me, roll how you want to roll. But there is sessions, and I kind of pick, the guys kind of pick, the sessions that are most important to them. So if I've got a grappler and they're going into an MMA fight, then striking is a priority. So that's when they 100% switch on mentally. But then when it comes to grappling, they can have a bit of fun because they're kind of already good in that aspect. They just need to sharpen the tools. So to keep the consistency in our respect, to stop them having the bad days, is we kind of have a little bit of fun with it as well and say, look, take 2 days to have a bit of fun and enjoy yourself and do what you think is right. And then, 4 days then mentally switched on in the aspects that you need to get better at, whether that's wrestling, Thai boxing, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. You pick them and you let me know what you're doing. And then we go from there. And I kind of think that, you weed out those bad days because they come in and they know that they got to mentally switch on for that one session. And then they know the next day they can come in and have a bit of fun. So they can kind of switch off at the same time, So that's important as well. But then when it comes to fight camp, the demand on them then is not too bad, because then when you start to have 6 days a week where you got to have a high demand, if you do that 12 months of the year, when they're in fight camp and then you bring it up 100% again, they're gonna go downhill. But because you kind of steady bring it up, and then when you get to fight camp, you shoot up. I found that that's probably the best way to do it, to weed out those bad days,
You've mentioned a couple of times there those keywords, consistency and dedication. From your perspective, what does a particular individual need to do and possess to become a global superstar?
I don't know. This day and age, you've got to be good on social media, I think. That's first and foremost, I think. Because you see the guys, they're good on social media, but they get it and you're like, okay, you got a long way to go. Not saying that these guys are not going to be somewhere someday, you know what I mean? But I think it's like steady, a bit of a climb. But to be a global superstar, if I'm totally honest with you, I wouldn't know, because I haven't got one in my mix yet, so we yet to find that out. And that's me being honest. Mason's on his way, he's a very likable character, so he's halfway there, but until he breaks into that top 10, then, which is coming 100%, he's going to do that. Until he gets there, then I can't answer your question, to be honest with you. I don't think many guys in the UK can, because you're few and far between. You got like your Darren Tills and you got these guys. You know, I think Arnold Allen is another one that I like a lot. You know, which can go far. So yeah, I don't know. I just think as long as they're dedicated, as long as they show the drive and determination, not so much listen, because that's not what I'm not here to tell someone how to fight. I can just give advice on what I think is the best practice, you know, or the best way to fight. But you know, we've got some good guys around us. Stephen Gifford, Craig Ewers, and now me and Craig Ewers are working really well together with some of his guys and my guys training together quite a lot, which is another one of Mason's coaches. So we've kind of combined our teams together now to make one uniform team, which is brilliant for us. So yeah, we've got a good bunch of characters in there that could make something of this half one day.
Just to step away from the coaching aspect as such, obviously you're a BJJ second degree black belt. How did you get into the sports of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the first place?
I was playing rugby, and then I had a couple of knee injuries, and then I was down Newport playing rugby in what is now the Gwent Dragons. I was in the setup down there, so I was doing relatively well, but team sports wasn't always my main thing. I would go off and do my own thing, if you know what I mean, even in a rugby game.
Yeah.
But when I had a bad knee injury and I was rehabbing my knee injury, I was looking to get back into playing rugby. And then I just stumbled across one of my friends who was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I was like, oh, this is pretty fun. It's another physical contact sport that I might enjoy. I don't know, but it might get me back into playing rugby, you know, as well. And then it just took on from there. I completely sacked rugby and literally held a full-time job down and trained full-time at the same time. And I'd done that for years and years and years until now. I'm probably like doing more coaching than I am training per se, but especially in the COVID now at the moment, I'm doing a lot of coaching, but I still train five days a week, something like that. And then I coach in between as well then.
In coaching and in the gym, obviously it is a lot to ask. Do you feel sort of pressurized at all to deliver on a daily basis to sort of train up these athletes?
Not at all. No, I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy what I do, and I lesson plan, so I make sure that, you know, I think a lot of guys who kind of get found out, you know, they don't do enough research. Maybe they don't put the time in behind the scenes. So like, what a lot of guys see in the academy is obviously, which is my job, lesson planning. You know what I mean? I got to go in and deliver a good lesson and a good structure, and I'll plan outside the academy. I've got a book that I am going on me now. I would show you, but it's in my bag. I carry it around with me everywhere, and I lesson plan. So I watch a lot of the guys' footage. I watch a lot of sparring, and then we video some of the sparring as well. And I just take notes on things that we need to work on, and that's how we structure the classes. Now, Stephen is exactly the same, our Thai boxing coach. He's very analytical as well, so he does the same thing. I'll bounce ideas off him, he'll bounce ideas off me, tell me that I haven't got a clue about striking, and that's the way it goes. And then obviously Craig Ewers has been in elite sports all his life. He's Commonwealth judo athlete. He was the Welsh national coach as well for judo, so he's got a massive understanding of how to deal with elite athletes as well. So I bounce ideas off him, he bounced ideas off me, and that's the way we do it. And we're kind of under the radar in terms of our knowledge, and we like to keep it that way, to be honest with you, because we let the results speak for themselves. But we do a lot of work behind the scenes on lesson planning and how to structure classes, what to teach, how to teach, the style of grappling we want to see within MMA, and then the style of grappling we want to see in a jiu-jitsu competition. You know, and the results speak for themselves. I got, you know, jiu-jitsu athletes like Jamie Hughes that does really, really well. And then also we got on the other side of the coin, we got Thai boxers, pro Thai boxers like Lindsay Edwards, who was ranked #1 in the UK. So we're doing something right. People might not look at us and think, you know, we're from the valley, so, you know, we haven't got that notoriety, but the results speak for themselves.
100%. With yourself being a second degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, how difficult is it to achieve those accolades within the sport?
It is very difficult. It is not as difficult these days than it was, if I'm honest with you, just because and that's not a dig at all, you know. It's just that the guys who are coming into jiu-jitsu now are just, some of them are phenoms, and they're getting their belts a lot quicker than we was. Like, I started 2004, 2005, and I got my belt in 2012, something like that. So that was pretty quick as well, you know. That was pretty quick compared to some guys. But then some guys get them within like 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, and they're training full time from white belts all the way through to black belts, you know. So and that's what I mean by, you know, the standard is just gone through the roof, you know. And yeah, so it's not. I'm not down the thing and saying it's more difficult when I was. No, that's not the case. It's just the athletes have gone much better, much better.
100%. I remember this is not related to jiu-jitsu, more the MMA side. When I spoke to Mason, I asked him the same question. With himself, Jack Shaw, Brett Johns, Corey McKenna, do you think those guys are the next wave of not just Welsh, but British athletes overall to make the move within MMA and making a mark in that sport?
100%, yeah, 100%. You know, you got Jack lives local to me as well. He's really good friends with my brother. I don't know whether you heard they do like a podcast together, like Tidy Butt is called. They work really well together, and Jack's a great guy and also a brilliant fighter as well. You know, he's a phenomenal fighter, and that says by the results. He took out some guys in Cage Warriors that, you know, we all questioned. I don't know whether Jack can do it, and he done it time and time again, and he's doing it in the UFC. You know, so he's phenomenal. Corey's out in Team Alpha Male doing her thing. You know, Brett's moved over to Bellator and still putting people away within the UFC when he was there as well, with his grinding game plan, you know, which is brilliant. As a grappler, I love watching that style of fighting. And then we got Mason as well, who's always entertaining. So those guys, they are the next, in my opinion, they're young enough as well to be the next big thing. But also they got the right attitude as well, you know.
Yeah. I'll go back to Mason, obviously. As we've seen in his fights as well, he's also a BJJ Black Belt, but he's also got the striking experience, the pro box. I'm sure he's had a pro boxing fight. He's got the striking experience. Do you think being so well rounded is going to be the key, or do you think even if you're just so diverse in one discipline, do you think that's going to be good for you as well, or do you think you need to be mixed up?
Yeah, if you watch his last fight, that we identified obviously that we didn't neglect the wrestling for his camp. We expected it. We did expect Mike to come and wrestle, and we worked hard on the wrestling. Like I said, we are very analytical, so we work really hard on what we think is going to happen and also what we kind of expect to happen as well, you know. So we worked hard on the wrestling, but, you know, we obviously didn't work hard enough. And that's an area we identified straight away, and that's an area we've rectified. And then as an academy, we've rectified that because we've just brought in a wrestling coach as well now to help on a weekly basis, who's training with us, Ollie Cole, Commonwealth wrestler. He's also turning his hand to want to fight pro MMA as well. So that's another guy that we've got coming through the door who's going to do really well. He's already got a massive advantage with the wrestling, you know, so we need to tighten some areas up with the striking, and he'll be let loose as well. So that's going to be scary for a lot of guys. But yeah, Craig is working hard with Mason on his wrestling, and our guys and his guys as well. We got Ollie involved as well, which he's working hard with our guys. And, you know, over the last 6 weeks, they've gone through the roof with their wrestling. They've just took into it so easy. So it's just easy to rectify little things like that, you know. But you've got to be willing to get the guys in and do it, you know. Like, I can't do everything. I'm a coach in one discipline, but I'm not a coach in all disciplines. I'm never going to be a coach in all disciplines. I'm just going to be, you know, one aspect of the coaching staff. So, you know, it's blending together real nice. And, you know, like I said, leading into Mason's fight last time, we identified that area. So, you know, that's an area he needs to work on and we need to work on as a team. And that's what we're doing.
100%. Nobody's going to know fully until he next steps back into the octagon. But from what you've seen as such, how has Mason dealt with the losses, such as he just got straight back in the gym?
Yeah, he had a week off and that was it. one week, 1 week off, and then he was back at it, you know. Things are a little bit more relaxed, it's more technical, obviously, because you're out the camp. And like I said, you know, you can't expect guys to train 6 days a week, twice a day, 3 times a day. Mason trains 3 times a day, 6 days a week without having some sort of fatigue, you know. So you want them to be fresh for when they do enter that 8-week camp, 6-week camp for fight camp. So yeah, it's a little bit more relaxed than the norm. But yeah, he's straight back in, and his improvements, like I said, we've broken the fight down we've talked over areas that we need to work on individually: boxing, Thai boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. And we're fixing those areas at the moment. So it's going to be exciting to see him get back in it, to be honest.
How would you describe your sort of coaching style / ethos? And we know you train in one area, but how would you describe your coaching style with regards to your ethos as well?
I don't know, because one day I'm intense and the next day I'm really relaxed. It depends. Like Sunday, I was a little bit peed off and I took it out on some boys that I normally wouldn't. But that's just, like I said, as a fighter, you have bad days, and as a coach, you have bad days as well. And when you start seeing things, you're like, oh, come on, we've worked on this a million times before. But my ethos is I like to be relaxed. I like to be friendly, a little bit, erring towards the side of fun if I can, because it's a sport at the end of the day, and you got to enjoy it, And if I'm intense and I'm coming in every day shouting and screaming, then the enjoyment factor's gone completely. So I like to have a bit of fun. But then, when it comes to hard work, we understand that hard work means hard work, and we got to get on with it. But yeah, it's up to the guys as well to respond to that,
Including your competing and coaching career to date, what's been the highlight of that?
From a coaching aspect, getting a student in the UFC is massive. That's huge. Mason winning, 2 titles in Cage Warriors, that's also huge. Getting our pro team up to scratch at the moment where, we are satisfied with the guys that we got. I'm not saying that we've never been satisfied, but we've always had dribs and drabs of guys. Now we've got a team. That's huge. Our jiu-jitsu team, I'm massively proud of that. We've got European champs, we've got world medalists. I'm extremely proud of that. And myself, I've done enough to be more than satisfied. I've medaled at the Europeans twice at black belt. I fought on Polaris. I've reffed Polaris. I still ref Polaris as well to this day. I've created a team from nothing since 2007, from a pub bloody dance floor that we used to lay mats down on, to where we are today, because that's where we started. I used to go to a pub. We used to brush up all the broken grass from a Friday night, and then chuck some mats down, roll, and then leave. That's what we done. Now we've got a full-time, state-of-the-art academy. So it's loads of little victories that I'm quite proud of, to be honest with you.
Well, I asked before how difficult it is to get a black belt within jiu-jitsu, but how difficult is the sport of Brazilian jiu-jitsu altogether, including the dedication, the time, and the work ethic you've got to put in?
Yeah, it is quite difficult, because you've got to train hard. As if you get the adult black belt, this is what a lot of guys don't understand. If you get to an adult black belt level, you could compete 5 times a 10-minute fight in one day. You could be fighting for 50 minutes, you know what I mean? So it is demanding. Training aspect is quite demanding. Whereas an MMA fight, you're fighting for 15 minutes. And then the flip side of that, then you've got all different aspects of the MMA to cover, like your boxing, Thai boxing, and everything as well. But from a jiu-jitsu point of view, I don't think people understand how demanding it is if you're preparing for a tournament, because you're preparing for the inevitable. You don't know what's going to happen. You may submit the guy in 20 seconds and move on, or you may get 5 guys that you've got to get through, and they're 10-minute fights. So you've got to prepare for that, So it is quite demanding. It's like you weigh in just before you step on the mat as well. You don't, so the weight cut you've got to be real careful on the weight cut as well and how you train for that. It's a lot of things, a lot of kind of discrepancies that get involved with jiu-jitsu. A lot of people don't see that side of it,
In this day and age, how important is the mental aspect of MMA?
That is super important. It's super important. If you've got someone who's mentally switched on, there's a lot of guys in the academy. Like I said, some days, I know how to speak to those guys because I know they're mentally on it. So I can say anything to them, and I know they'll just nod their head and say, okay. But then there's other guys who are a little bit, you've got to be a bit more reserved with and speak to them a different way. But the resilience of all the guys is huge. We've put them through some sessions where, I've struggled to get through myself, and they've breezed through it, So I think that comes over time as well. You know, it comes over time, like that mental resilience as well, you know. But it is a huge, you've seen that in Mason's fight, you know, he's so mentally strong that like that third round when he just stuck in there and he put everything on line to win a fight. Everything on the line to win a fight. And I could put a lot of my students in that situation and they would do exactly the same thing.
100%. When do you expect Mason to next get in the cage? Or have you guys not had a conversation yet?
We've had the conversation, yeah. We've got a couple of ideas, but we also, you know, we want him to improve as well. So we want him to get out the Team Alpha Male if he can, because we're more than understanding that the sparring partners are not going to be as good as what he's got there. You know, so like he's going to be sparring every day, and that's where the mental aspect comes from. That's where he mentally switches on, because every training session is a fight. So he goes there, and that's where he mentally switches on. So he'll go there for a month or two. He'll come home for a month and prepare then, yeah, and then look to fight then, I think, yeah. So I think after he gets back from Team Alpha Male, whenever he gets out there, we'll come back for a couple of weeks, and then we'll look from there then.
Well, that was the last thing from myself, but I'm not sure if James has any more questions. James?
I've literally got a couple more, if that's all right, Greg. I really appreciate your time, mate.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Obviously, would you say that your gym is a closely knit group? And if so, how important is that for a morale on a daily basis?
Yeah, like we talked about all along, it's super important to have a close bunch of boys, like, where you have a bit of fun with each other as well, you know. Even little things like having a good WhatsApp group where there's a bit of banter in there, you know, stuff like that, where you can get the boys, you know, sharing memes about Aljamain Sterling getting knocked out, stuff like that. A little bit of fun in there. Then when it comes to the academy, then, you know, boys are kind of, they know each other really well. We got boys from all over South Wales training, so it's important that they get to know each other. Yeah, so the morale in the academy is massive, because if you come in to train, like I said, and you know you're like a little bit down, and you need some characters in it to pick it back up again, which is important.
And just one final thing from me, I appreciate it. What advice would you give to these aspiring amateurs that are wanting to make it into the big leagues and these big promotions?
Just graft, listen and graft. That's all it is. If you listen, and like I said earlier on, it's like I haven't got all the answers, but if you listen in the correct areas, you take advice. Like I said, we got guys in the academy where they lead the speech at the end. You know, when we sit down and we got a speech at the end, these guys lead the speech. You know, so they kind of get their point across. So like everyone's got an input in how we train. Yeah, so like, you know, listen, graft hard, do the best you can, and then hopefully then everything else will look after itself.
Yeah, no, perfect. That's all from me. I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on, Greg.
Anytime. Thank you.
Same here, man. It's been a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.